Deborah Brenner, welcome to Come Together with the Beatles.
Well, thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Now, you have been listening to my radio show for how long now?
A number of years, you could say.
Can we call you a long-time dedicated listener then?
Oh, yes, and very, very dedicated, yes.
Yes, you are. Well, thank you. We all appreciate that. We always love having you when we go to the chat room, and it's always nice for you to participate. And this is a special show. You know, this is a very special show because your birthday's coming up. And as you know, I do special shows for people who have a birthday coming up, and then they send me their list of songs. So it's really a wonderful way to honor some of the listeners like yourself and to celebrate their birthday. So I'm glad that you sent me the song list. When is your birthday?
It is October 5th, this Monday.
Monday. Okay, well, that works out fine. So we'll be celebrating it a little early, but that's okay. We'll be celebrating it on Saturday and Sunday.
3rd and 4th.
Yes, the 3rd and the 4th. And of course, your birthday's not that far away from someone who we both know a lot about. His birthday is 4 days after you. And of course, we're talking about Mr. Dear John Lennon.
20 years and 4 days, yeah.
Yes. So after this weekend show, then I'm going to be doing an all John Lennon show, which we have to do that for John, of course.
Of course. So I'm honored to be a week before the Old John show.
You were the opening act, and then the main act comes on next weekend.
I couldn't imagine anyone I'd rather be an opening act for than John Lennon. I mean,
I hope you don't mind being the opening act. Okay.
No, not when it's John Lennon. I don't.
Okay. All right. Okay, so here's a few questions for you. When were you first turned on to the Beatles?
Because I was a little girl during that time, and I remember my grandmother wanted to watch. She was eager to watch, believe it or not, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. So it's one of those things of history that, do I remember it directly or do I remember, because so much has been talked about since, but I know she was going on and on. I love them. They have so much energy. And then later on, as the years, I remember being very much aware of the Pepper album. I had to catch up with some of the others a little bit later, when I was old enough to appreciate it, because I was 6 in the Summer of Love, so I do remember clearly everywhere you went, that's all you heard. And then as I started to get more into music, I started listening to all their recordings, and I haven't stopped since.
Now, do you have a favorite Beatle album or no?
This is always a tough one because there are so many magnificent songs on the later albums, but I understand, I believe that the Rubber Soul Revolver era, when they were all working together as a band, is really special. I would say Rubber Soul, I guess, if I had to pick one, because they were so cohesive then, where it just became more everybody doing their own song later on.
Yeah, they were unified. They were really operating as a 4-piece band on Rubber Soul, unlike, say, the White Album, for example. Yeah. They were one unified band when they did Rubber Soul, and you can hear it in the tracks as you're talking about. You say the harmonies were extraordinary on that record. They're just amazing. Okay, let's move on then. Do you prefer Beatles songs more than solo Beatles songs?
I wouldn't say that, but there's very few mediocre Beatles songs, where in the solo albums, there is some songs that are not as memorable, but there are some solo Beatles songs which certainly are the caliber of Beatles songs. So I say, if anything, probably would give the overall edge to Beatles songs, but that's because of the difference between, say, McCartney on Ram and McCartney, as some of those 70s, 80s albums, it's that's why it's not as consistent, but the Beatles are so consistent. I mean, how many really Beatles skips are there? Not many.
Well, based on your birthday song list, by the way, thank you for sending that to me, it looks like you favored John and then George, Paul, and Ringo. Is that correct? I mean, do you favor John above the other three?
With select McCartney songs I really love, but I would say so many John solo songs. I mean, so many. Between Plastic Ono Band and Imagine, I mean, Instant Karma and then Number 9 Dream. So maybe so, but as you know, I've been like a major George Harrison fan too. So
Solo George.
But again, some of George's solo, like All Things Must Pass, is a masterpiece. I can't say the next one I think was Living in the Material World. That had good songs too, but not as quite wasn't. How could it? Because he'd been saving up all those songs for so many years.
Yeah.
But then he came back with some real gems through the years. Your Love Is Forever.
Right, and that's one of the songs that we're going to play today. But I did notice that you did not pick one song by solo Ringo.
I thought of that, and I said, Kaya was right. She said, you could have said good night. I said, you're right. I should have said good night because I adore that. I mean, usually when people ask about Ringo's song, probably I lean towards Photograph because it has that nice melody. It's just a fun song. It's nothing that deep, but
actually, it's a pretty sad. That's a pretty sad song, Photograph. When you think about the lyrics, it's a sad song.
Is,
yeah.
But it's got this kind of bouncy.
Yeah, it is a bouncy rhythm. That's true.
Well, I mean, Ringo. I should have put like good night.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can squeeze Ringo in. If not, we'll do it some other time.
Yeah.
We all love Ringo, of course. We love Ringo.
Who doesn't love Ringo?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so what are you currently working on? You have any projects that you're working on at the moment?
Oh, yes. Writing a quintet of books called the Tammabukku Chronicles.
Called the Tammabukku Chronicles. Can you please tell our listeners what does Tammabukku mean?
It's the name of an ancient mystery school from Roman Britain. But the books span thousands of years. A good deal of it takes place in modern times, and then you have Roman Britain and the Victorian era. And believe it or not, the Beatles are part of that. The Beatles are mentioned several times throughout the quintet.
Okay, so this Tammabukku school really did exist.
Well, the quintet, yes, it did, yes.
I mean, historically, back 2,000 years ago, this school you're talking about, the Tammabukku school, actually existed?
Well, when I write in my creative vision, yes, it existed.
No, but I mean, in reality, did it exist? Or is this a fabrication, the Tammabukku school?
It's something I believe in that makes sense to me. But yes, the name was chosen, but I think I can't, you're not going to find a historical record probably, but I believe in it, that it was based on something. But no, You're not going to find.
Okay, so you created the name Tammabukku.
Yes, and I'm like trying to even remember where that came. I mean, I just remember when I heard the name, that was it.
Okay, so this is your creative fictional vision, because these books obviously are fiction, correct? These are fiction books.
Yes, they are categorized quantum fiction, sometimes paranormal or visionary. But yes, they are fiction, but they really try to tackle the very important subjects of life in a serious way, while uncovering stories and secrets and trying to reunite forces of people that have been at war with each other for a long time because of misunderstanding and various reasons.
Okay, well, it sounds like you have a very fascinating series going on. You said that there is a connection between your books and the Beatles. Can you give me one example of what the connection might be?
Yes, actually, in a section where the main character, protagonist David Pearson, is time traveling back to see his beloved friend back in 1902, he actually chooses John Lennon to talk to him about from the future. And I thought about, given their two personalities, John Lennon would be perfect. Of course, John Lennon was still 38 years from being born when this scene takes place. He talks to him about John Lennon and it tells him a little of his story. And then there's also another scene that takes place in Strawberry Fields when all the characters, a number of the characters are there at Christmas time.
This is Strawberry Fields in Central Park?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, the Beatles come up, the argument, why has nobody surpassed them? Why has nobody ever been able to as close as some artists have come, they've never been able to touch that magic, not in the same way. And then it opens up a lively discussion. And then by one of the themes of the book, one of the character who David might get confusing here to some people. The character that David was visiting back in 1902 is now reborn as a young boy, and he is there, and he joins in with the Central Park singers. We know that there are always somebody with a guitar in Central Park singing John Lennon's Christmas song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say that this book deals with time travel and multi-dimensions, and it's kind of far out, I guess you could say.
That's why we're calling it quantum, because, yes, it does go to all the subjects of quantum. And I really, really tried hard to do this on a scientific and spiritual, so it was balanced and it would appeal to more people. And I've had a few people tell me it's really opened their eyes recently about a whole new way of looking at things. So I was like, that was just wonderful to hear.
Very good. How can our listeners find out more about your books, Deborah?
We have a webpage, DeborahKaya.com. And then we also have an Amazon page, so you can go and just put the Tammabukku Chronicles. There's 3 books of the quintet are currently available. Book we're working on now. That's expected to be probably sometime January, February.
Okay. Can you please spell Tammabukku for us?
Tammabukku. The first book is Serchbithol, Serchbythol. The second book is Inner Magnets.
Nice title. I like that Inner Magnets title.
I do too. Yeah. And the third is Timeless Keepers.
Ooh, wow. Another good title. So these are all part of the series, Tammabukku Chronicles. They can find it on Amazon. And you have your own webpage called TammabukkuChronicles.com, I guess?
Actually, under the author name, Deborah, DeborahKaya.com.
Okay, Deborah, Kaya. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Deborah Kaya.
Yeah, my daughter and my daughter's been working on them with me right along, and that name was actually suggested by a very dear friend.
Okay. Well, very good. Thank you for all that information. Before we start playing the show, which of course I know you're going to love, obviously. It's your show.
That's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, you're going to love this one. I know you like all my shows, but this one in particular, of course. Yeah. But I have to say, now that we all know that you're a writer, that you did not include paperback writer because you are a paperback writer.
That's true. Actually, the John Lennon theme extends through chapter 1 of the first book, if I come to think of it, where John Lennon is on David's wall.
A picture of John Lennon is on David's wall? Yeah, okay.
Well, it's a show where he's tuning into. It's also, he's into all the indie music of, that's the year was 2012. He's into indie music, but he has like John Lennon and, on the wall. It was like, he's really tuned into that message. The same message John had for the world,
Okay, so David Pearson, the main character in your books, he's a musician?
He's a musician, yes.
Oh, okay.
In the first book, his band broke up, but then by the end, he starts to get it together again. And then the second and third books are very much, about the music, also include the music world. And then there's this house, and this very enigmatic house, which has quite a story called Beak's End, which runs through all the books, called the most haunted house in England.
Now, again, this is something that you fabricated. It does not exist. This house does not exist.
Well, I believe it exists in another dimension, but yes, there wasn't. Historically, again, you're not going to be able to Google a house called Beak's End, no, because it's a fiction book.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for being a dedicated listener. And everyone at Come Together with the Beatles wishes you a very happy birthday on October 5th. And we're going to begin the show with, of course, these are all songs that Deborah picked out. And we're going to begin the show with John and the Beatles, and it's Across the Universe. Deborah, thanks so much for joining us today. And you have a very, very wonderful, loving birthday.
Thank you so much, Brooke.
You're very welcome. On with the show.